It's companies keeping up with their customers. And what fuels that is cloud. It fosters innovation, speed, agility.
Technology is transforming how we think, how we lead, and how we win. From Intervision, this is Status Go, the show helping IT leaders move beyond the status quo, master their craft, and propel their IT vision.
Several months ago, we began to explore the topic of collaboration here on Status Go. You may recall Otto Sanchez, Intervision's Director of Engineering, joined us for a pair of episodes. If you haven't listened to those, I would encourage you to go back and listen to those couple of episodes. One especially was about Carey's Law and some of the things that you need to be aware of with some regulations that are now enacted that you may need to make sure that you're adhering to. So just a word of advice there. In those conversations, though, we were really focused on collaboration's impact on the customer experience. In this episode, we're going to pivot and we're going to turn our attention to collaboration's impact on the employee experience. As you all know, a lot has changed in the last 18 months. And what we're going to cover today is a little bit about how we've adapted, maybe how technology has adapted, and really talk about how do you create this environment of collaboration and what tools really go into helping you do that. This is Jeff Tunn, Intervision's Strategic IT Advisor. Joining Otto and me today is Matt Campbell, Intervision's Collaboration Product Manager and Solutions Engineer. Otto, welcome back. And Matt, welcome to Status Go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Otto, I know when you were on the podcast several months ago, we went through your journey and what led you to the role you're at now. Do you mind just kind of giving us the highlight reel on that a little bit to bring everybody up to speed who may have missed those episodes?
Yes, absolutely. I recently changed roles actually at Intervision, and my role right now is principal architect and delivery lead for Intervision, more focused on cloud collaboration and customer engagement technologies. So my role is about helping customers solve communication and collaboration challenges through technology. So that's what I'm doing these days.
Excellent. Thanks for that update. And congratulations on the change in role. I think that's exciting and well deserved. Matt, I'd love for you to take a minute and talk about your journey and let our audience know how you've gotten to where you are in your career journey and some of the things that you're focused on.
Sure. So I've been Intervision's product manager for about a year now in the collaboration space. Prior to that, I was a product engineer on the product team for about a year. Prior to that, I was more heavily on the IT delivery or the implementation side of the house, was where we were delivering products professional services wise. I've been in the IT industry about 16 years now, and the vast majority of that has been on the professional services team as a systems engineer and a network engineer. Earlier on in my career, I kind of got a invested interest in voice systems and telephone systems and began designing and implementing them for smaller businesses. At the time, I'd worked for myself at a small business with just my brother and I, and we did small business IT systems, and that kind of grew and grew into more enterprise systems over the years. Today, I kind of leverage my knowledge from the implementations and design side of the house and help out with the sales process on the pre-sale side and also kind of bring to market new and innovative products in the collaboration space to our customers.
I love that your roots are set in voice and phone systems because that was really kind of the early days of collaboration, right? To leverage the telephone. And now, we've got so many different tools, some that integrate with traditional phones and some that sit separate. So I imagine over that span of your career, you've seen quite an evolution in collaboration.
Oh, for sure. I started out doing, analog phone systems and PBXs before VoIP was really even a thing, or when it was just starting to become a thing, I should say. And to kind of step back a moment, my father and my grandfather both worked for the telephone company, so it's kind of in my blood, I guess, so to speak.
I guess so.
But yeah, I mean, and I got really excited when open source IP PBX systems came out, and I started building them based on Asterix in my home lab, which was in a spare bedroom at the time, and just kind of playing around with it for fun and setting up like an entire elaborate phone system for our company of a few people. It sounded like we had thousands of people, but we really didn't, based on all the IVRs and stuff. But anyhow, yeah, I like to geek out on this stuff. I enjoy it.
That's awesome, and I bet a lot of our listeners are like, "Oh yeah, I've got one of those in my spare bedroom too." So that's great. So Otto, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is collaboration from the customer perspective, the customer experience. How do you see collaboration and the employee experience?
From the employee experience is mandatory for the most part that employees have tools to properly communicate and collaborate with others. We are working in almost 100% remote work.
Hmm.
And if we don't have those tools, I mean, the employee experience is going to be very disjointed because they're going to feel, I mean, we as employees would feel completely isolated from the world that we work in. And not having those tools is detrimental to the employee experience as well, because they won't be able to communicate or collaborate with anybody else. And
Yeah.
that's a problem. Yes.
This question is for either one of you or both. What do you see is in a typical collaboration stack from a set of tools that an organization needs to really facilitate collaboration?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would say a lot of things have changed, obviously, in the last couple of years since COVID hit us, and we're all working from home. Prior to that, I think we were heavily based on just voice bridges or conference calling systems, right, where
Mhm.
we didn't really have the video component in there. And now we've shifted towards WebEx and Zoom and other such video conferencing. I think that's a huge tool. When it was just voice and not video, it worked well, but now in the world that we work in, I have only met maybe 10% of a lot of the people that I work with,
Yeah.
customer side, and even in our own company to a certain extent, since we're spread across the country. Yet I feel like I know them very well because I see their face on video every day, and I think that really kind of makes the experience more personal and kind of makes it feel like even though we're remote, we're still all together and in the same room, in the same team, versus just audio. Obviously, I think chat is also a big part of it, instant messaging and such. And voice, of course, is still a big piece as well, but it seems to be less of a instrumental piece or a priority, so to speak, in the full stack compared to what it was just a few years ago. That's my take on it. I don't know, you might have a different take.
I would add that document collaboration is important
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. That's how you can collaborate with multiple employees or multiple team members on a single document. I mean, we do it every day. So we're working on a project, on a presentation that we need to deliver tomorrow for a customer, and we got a team of 4 people, and everybody's adding their comments to the presentation and collaborating through certain tools to
Hmm.
complete the work that we need to deliver to the customer. So I would definitely add that to the stack.
Yeah.
It's important. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, Matt, you mentioned chat and instant messaging. Where does SMS text messaging come in? Are you lumping those all together or are those different tools, different platforms?
I mean, there's obviously some crossover there, some similarities. I mean, I personally don't use SMS in a business setting all that much. I find it, because that's usually on your phone,
Hmm.
which works when you're out and about, I suppose. But at my desk, I'm going to use instant messaging for sure. It's more interactive, it's more live.
Hmm.
I think that there's definitely use case for SMS out there, but it's really just for, quick messages versus more lengthy conversations, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you guys both see that companies that end up with a lot of these tools, that they need to set some guidelines about what you use which platform for, or do people naturally gravitate to, I'll call it the appropriate platform?
Otto, what do you think on that one?
I would think that companies dictate the solutions that they want their employees to use. So there's got to be certain standards defined by the companies so that employees can use them. Of course, there's a balance of what the employees need and what the company can provide as that set of tools. We often see that most employees use the tools that companies define. However, I mean, there's the concept of shadow IT, where employees, when they don't find the right tools for their
Hmm.
jobs, they would just go around that completely and start, for instance, sharing documents on a completely different platform.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, it's the companies that define what tools the employees need to use, because they also can apply governance to those tools. They can establish some compliance on those tools based on the type of communication that they intend to be exchanged in those specific tools.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's important that the solution that companies pick is, unified, so to speak, unified
Hmm.
collaboration, right? So that
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got all the tools that you need to work efficiently all in one spot, as opposed to, the scattered approach where you've got five different applications for the various pieces and it's not
Hmm.
cohesive, and you kind of get tool fatigue after a while. You got so many different ways of communicating. So a lot of these more modern solutions are out there, do a good job at bundling all that stuff into one product. So you got your video, your screen sharing, you've got your instant messaging, your SMS in a lot of cases, and your voice all in one application. And then, from a compliance perspective, as Otto was saying, the company can, specify retention of messages and
Yeah.
what you can and can't do in that one tool, as opposed to trying to manage, a bunch of different tools.
Yeah, and that could be a whole additional conversation, right, on the compliance frameworks that many companies fall under and how long do they need to save conversations, using air quotes around conversations, in each of those platforms. We could really dig into that because that gets real, it starts to get really complex. Let's dive into cloud for a minute. We know the emergency work from home culture that was adopted during COVID, and now the emerging hybrid model would not have been possible without modern collaboration tools and innovation. How does the cloud factor in here?
Yeah, it's important to note that the SaaS model or the cloud model for these tools is a huge part of it, because in the past it wasn't so easy to get your corporate telephone or collaboration system tied into somebody's house wherever they might be, especially if you happen to be in a coffee shop or a hotel lobby or something like that. There was often VPN connections involved,
Mhm.
and or you were just part of, only using a small part of the overall solution when you weren't in the office space. And now all you need is a broadband internet connection and access to that cloud provider service, which you can get from any internet connection. And I mean, that's really opened up the doors for remote work and for hybrid work, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, and this podcast is a great case in point. I don't even know where each of you are in the world, right? We're on a cloud SaaS based application recording this like we're in the same room, but I'm sitting here in Indianapolis, and Matt, my guess is you're near Boston somewhere, right, from the East
That's
Coast.
correct. Yeah, yeah.
Otto, you're probably St. Louis.
Yes.
Megan, who's our executive producer, is St. Louis, and it all sounds like we're all in the same room.
Yeah, great point.
Right. I also think that as technology has evolved, employee expectations keep up with that,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that if you're an employee, you're expecting that your tools would allow you to exchange information and being able to do work wherever you are at a click of a button.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't the case I want to say 3 to 4 years ago. So employees are expecting that their tools that they use for corporate work provide the same experience as other commercial tools that are outside of the enterprise. So I've seen that change, happening in the last couple of years, where technology is really up to par with the employee expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that consumerization of
Hmm.
technology, right? Bringing what were the experiences we're used to having in our homes, bringing those into
Right.
the company. Are there any specific areas you've really seen the cloud impact remote work?
I was thinking, how call centers previously in the previous world were tended to be a bunch of folks just sitting in a room answering calls in cubicles. And when COVID hit, that kind of disabled that ability. And now we've got agents sitting at home at their desk answering calls as part of that same call center, but now they're at home doing it. And how that's kind of enabled companies that operate call centers to expand and have employees, agents, so to speak, in various locations around the country or the world that they might not have been able to do previously.
I think that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up. I would love to explore just for a minute how that has benefited the companies beyond just, hey, now we've got a remote workforce. Have you seen companies that have implemented that remote work in their contact center, in their call centers? And what things have they seen as a result of that?
I think that they're absolutely doing that, and I think that previously they might have needed to hire locally, and they maybe couldn't find enough people to help them out in the local geographical area. Now they've opened up their ability to find resources that are far away, that are maybe more qualified to do the job, and it doesn't matter that they're not in the local area anymore, right?
Hmm.
Now they can kind of expand their search, so to speak, for talent. Otto, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And we're seeing that in the market. I mean, we're seeing companies expanding and having the need of hiring people that
Yeah.
are not local. And that's a challenge with the previous generation of technology. So, yeah, I agree. And I would add to that, what's the customer experience too at that point, because so much has changed that expectations have also changed
Mhm.
from that perspective. So customers are always asking for more, and their expectations are
Yeah.
higher.
Yeah. So cloud makes this realistic to implement.
Yeah, that for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Correct. Correct. It fosters innovation, speed, agility. It's kind of companies keeping up with their customers. And what fuels that is cloud.
Excellent. Excellent. So, a couple of the things that I hear when I talk with people about collaboration tools and specifically the hybrid model or the remote work model, maybe some of the gaps. I was at a conference yesterday here in Indianapolis, and one of the conversations that we had during that was the whole concept of video is great. It is a fantastic way to connect people visually. But even with video, you lose some of the ability to read body language. And body language is such an important part of communication. Are you hearing that from your customers? What are your thoughts on body language as a part of communication and what the tools might do in the future to try to alleviate that?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about body language being a very important piece. And to kind of reverse for a second here, I mean, when we are not doing video, we have none of that. There's no body
Right,
language at all,
right,
right? So
right.
at least video provides some body
Some,
language.
yeah,
Sure, it's not the same as being in person. Boy, it's a heck of a lot more than not having anything, right?
yes, yeah.
Um,
Good point. Good point.
there's a blend or a balance between having a certain number of interactions or meetings actually in person and a certain amount of them remote, to balance work life schedules and other such things. As far as what the technology might do in the future to kind of improve upon that, it's hard to say. I mean, perhaps more HD, or higher resolution
Yeah.
video and or maybe VR. It's hard to say how that kind of plays into it. That's kind of a
Yeah.
long shot.
Now that would
I
be
don't.
cool, wouldn't it though?
It would be. I mean, there's some impressive stuff out there in that realm. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of expands over the next decade or so.
Yeah. I took a class a couple of years ago that was real the class itself was kind of virtual reality, although it was long ago enough that it wasn't up to speed where things are today. But literally you attended this class and it was like walking into this classroom in Boston there at MIT. And I'm sitting here at my desk in Indianapolis, and I have an avatar that walks in, and you participate and talk to people next. It's an amazing experience, but we'll have to play around with that in the future. Otto, I'd like to bring you in on this concept of body language and what the future may bring. What are your thoughts on where this might be going?
First, I think that technology has got a huge task to accomplish, which is get up to speed with
Mm-hmm.
human evolution, right? So we've been in this land or in this earth for millions of years at this point, and we're designed for
Yeah,
human
yeah.
interaction, correct? And technology is trying to bridge the gaps so that we can communicate better. I don't think we're there yet, and maybe we won't ever be. But where I think technology is going to help us is to bring more insights into the way that we communicate. For instance, having a meeting assistant helping us with
Mm-hmm.
the meeting notes, trying to get a gauge on engagement. So maybe technology or AI, artificial intelligence, being incorporated in meetings can detect how engaged the
Yeah.
participants are, and then get a report for the presenter, so the presenter knows if they need to do something different with that presentation. And like Matt said, I mean, as far as video, I mean, both language is very important. I think there's got to be a combination with real human interaction to foster more creativity in the workplace, more innovation. So I think that a
Mm-hmm.
combination is what I'm seeing more as opposed to fully leveraging the technology, which is making great progress. But I think that human interaction is still needed.
I like what you were saying there about the engagement, but also it's like it's going to bust a lot of people for multitasking during meetings.
Correct.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
that's a big problem too. I mean,
Exactly.
how many times have you been in a meeting, you ask somebody something, and they said, "Hey, can you say that? Repeat that? I wasn't
yeah,
quite paying attention." I mean, it happens all the time. So
yeah,
how engaged are people really in the
yeah, yeah.
conversation when they've got all this other stuff in front of them? So that's certainly a
That's right.
challenge.
Yeah, yeah. I've had that happen in live meetings though too. So
Well, sure, nobody's ever going to be perfectly engaged at all
yeah,
times.
Right. It's things that maybe humans cannot pick up
yeah,
deterministically, right? So, like the sentiment, like I may be talking to you, but I cannot quite pick
yeah,
what the
yeah,
sentiment of what you're saying is about. So that's where technology is a little more black and white and can give
yeah,
you a little
yeah,
more
yeah.
insights.
An interesting thought on this is, people often are distracted and multitasking on the meetings, but the ability to record the meeting, which we have in front of us, and then play it back afterwards, and maybe kind of listen to it at certain places of it over again, things you might have missed or just kind of wanted to hear again, is a very useful tool as well
Yeah.
to have at our disposal.
Yeah, asynchronous versus synchronous communication. That's again, that's one of the beauties of the technology. Another thing that seems to come up when you talk about hybrid work or remote work is the concept of water cooler conversations, right? Those random conversations that you have passing someone in a hallway at the office or around the coffee pot, wherever it is. Have you seen companies or technology that is trying to provide those water cooler moments in any way?
Remotely, you're saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah. If I'm working from home, how do I have those water cooler moments with my coworkers? I think one of the companies that was at this event yesterday, they talked about they actually put a camera and microphone near the coffee machine. You can connect to that view, right, from your home. And if Otto's getting a cup of coffee, I can say, "Hey, Otto, how you doing?" That to me seemed a little creepy.
Sounds unnatural to me. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd get as many cups of coffee if that was going on. But
That's right. That's right.
I've seen kind of like, social or happy hour type of
Hmm.
gatherings over Zoom or whatever. So, but it's really not with there's no set agenda, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
agenda is just to socialize and talk and chit chat and do that kind of stuff. So I think that might be, a tool that's useful. Oftentimes, when there's a little bit more time, the casual conversation in the beginning or the end of a meeting is
Yeah.
very helpful to the overall kind of, conversation, and even some things that might be off topic that you've been itching to find out or get a hold of somebody about, and there they are in front of you, and you wanted to kind of just ping it past them. Um, so I just want to add here that I think that while we might be missing a few water cooler moments, so to speak, there's also the flip side of that, is that we might be gaining work-life balance at home, because
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't have as much to do at night and on the weekends, because you're able to do that during the day a little bit, and I think
Yeah.
that helps kind of people's happiness as well to a certain extent.
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Otto, you've been on the program before. Matt, this is your first time. We love to end with a clear call to action for our listeners. We want them to walk away with one or two things that they can take action on almost immediately. So, Otto, I'm going to start with you and put you on the spot and just ask, what are a couple of things that our listeners should do tomorrow because they listened to our conversation today?
I think one of the things is understanding that the technology at this point in time, like you said, it's just not going to replace that human interaction. It's wired into our brains. When I went to the office a few months ago, I mean, the experience was completely different. I mean, I felt revived, even though I was having a lot of virtual
Mhm.
meetings and a lot of video meetings. So don't think at this point in time that the technology is or the technology you have available at hand is necessarily going to
Mhm.
replace that. So I would say, mix and match if you have the ability to do that, to pivot between your office and your home office. And I think that will make you feel better, overall. Another call of action is, if your company doesn't have the right tools for you, be vocal.
Yeah.
Be vocal. Ask for what you need. And, it's at that point in time, is on the company to provide you with those tools.
That's great advice. And I would say that, man, yesterday going to that in person conference, people were just happy to see people face to face. And there was these strange interactions where people were meeting face to face for the very first time, but they'd been on video. So they kind of recognize each other, but not really. So that was kind of interesting as well. So Matt, same question for you. What are one or two things our listeners should think about or do tomorrow because they listened to our conversation today?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what Otto said for the most part, and I think that I'd add that be aware of tool fatigue, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's easy to say, oh, I've got all these great tools at my disposal, but too many tools is actually maybe not such a good thing. You got to keep it simple and not have a bunch of them all pinging you at the same time, because you know
Yeah.
how fatigued that gets. So hopefully organizations out there can try to pick solutions that are cohesive and kind of simple, as opposed to picking
Yeah.
5 different vendors to package together their own solution. Try to find a solution that includes everything all in one spot, and keeps the user experience simple and engaging.
That's great advice. And I'll just add to that. I think we also have to give our employees permission to unplug from time to time,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you're right, that fatigue does come in. Matt, Otto, I really want to thank you for joining us today on this program. It's been a great conversation and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For our listeners, if you have a question or want to learn more, visit intervision.com. The show notes will provide links and contact information. We'll be sure and provide links to those prior episodes that I mentioned at the beginning that Otto was on collaboration, because I think it provides an interesting context to this conversation. This is Jeff Tunn for Otto Sanchez and Matt Campbell. Thank you very much for listening.
You've been listening to the Status Go podcast. You can subscribe on iTunes or get more information at intervision.com. If you'd like to contribute to the conversation, find Intervision on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Thank you for listening. Until next time.